Hunter McDermott here with another episode of Guitar Blog. I think we're on to 6, maybe. It's Wednesday, August 14th, 5:24 p.m. and it is thundering outside. So we'll see if we can do this without dying. So let's see, it's been a good week. So let's see. I am continuously trying to come up with like new different ways of organizing stuff, so I can stay focused, so that when I sit down to practice I don't have to think about what I should be doing. I just kind of already have identified those things. So I've got I made like a checklist-y kind of thing. So I sat down, I think I maybe already mentioned this, and thought about the things that I really need to work on, like things that I'm not just like would be nice, but like I'm playing tunes and recognizing that these are weaknesses or whatever. In this case, I have decided to work on Someday My Prince Will Come for the entire month of August. So like I really just want to get this one down. So that made it easy, and I think that's a good way to go forward. Because like I was saying before, it mimics what I'm used to doing when it comes to learning tunes. Like I learned an Elliott tune last week. This is no different really, except that it's been recorded by so many more people, and you've got solos, which are all unique to the specific version that you're listening to and the specific player and all that kind of stuff. So there's just like way more to learn, but it's not really different as far as like just sitting down and learning stuff. And then of course the ultimate goal is that this stuff just comes out and you're playing because you've filled your head with so much stuff and you've got so much of it under your fingers. The same way that I do when I write tunes of my own. It just kind of like the creativity comes sort of as a mixture of all the stuff I've been listening to. Nothing new or groundbreaking there, but for me it was kind of a big moment to realize that. So I'm trying to focus everything more around the tune, and not just even abstractly, because I feel like I've done that before and it's been like, okay, let me work on drop 2 chords with autumn leaves or whatever, and that's cool, but I wasn't really spending time outside of that working on learning that specific tune, learning language, learning solos, transcribing stuff. So the things that I set out to do, the 6 areas that I identified for myself are transcribe, compose, drop 2 and 3 chords. Really, even that's too much. It should be just one or the other. So actually I've been mostly focusing on drop 2, reading, 3 in, 2 out, which I talked about a couple weeks ago, and then arpeggios. So transcribing is good because you are learning vocabulary, and most importantly, you're learning it by ear. So you're not reading it off a page. You're doing the normal thing of listening to somebody and mimicking what they do. And I think that's just making that ultimate connection that we all are striving to strengthen, which is the connection between your head and your hands in this case. Because it's interesting, like if you were to take somebody who, by their own admission, doesn't have any kind of musical training, maybe, or skill, and said like, sing this song, or like mimic back to me what I'm singing, and you sing them a little something, like a Christmas carol or a hymn or a children's song or whatever, they could probably do it, right? So that's like that's the thing. That's what we're trying to do. But the difference is that we've abstracted it, because now I can do that in my head, but then it comes out comes to where I have to do it with my hands on this specific instrument. If I go to a different instrument, it's different technique and all that kind of stuff. So that's what we're all really trying to do, and so it makes sense to basically take the same process, though, is to keep thinking about it the only way that you can, which is listening to something and trying to echo it back. So I've been trying to, as I play things or as I transcribe, I am writing it down, which again is like an additional thing that I'm doing because I want to get better at writing music as well, but you don't have to do that. And it's surprising like how little I have to rely on reading the transcription that I wrote, because it's already up here, right? Now, if I want to come back to it later, I've got it written down, so that's cool. But It's not so much about writing it and then reading it. It's about getting it stuck in your head and just going over it time and time and again is what helps you do that. So you get to the point where you're listening to these tunes and you're singing the solos like you would sing the lyrics to a tune with lyrics, right? It's no different except that there are way more notes in the song. That's pretty much the only difference, right? It doesn't repeat maybe quite as much, but there are still elements of, popular music or whatever. You've got motifs and evolving and different melodies and things like that. Rhythmic repetition and stuff like that. I think a good solo has those aspects. Anyway, so transcribing, composing was something a guitar teacher of mine, a great guitar teacher of mine, told me to do, which was just write solos. Because this is, again, connecting back to what's in your head coming out of your hands. The idea behind improvisation is basically composing, but just composing fast. You're writing something in the heat of the moment that goes along with the tune. So to work on that, write not in the heat of the moment, right? So I'm been taking time to sit down and just kind of play the chords and kind of listen to what's in my own head and figure it out on the guitar and then write that down and go, yeah, this is cool. So it's a mixture of a lot of things. Some things are just, this was flowing through my head and now sounds good on the guitar. So it's kind of a very natural thing. Some of it is, this is a lick that I heard somebody else play, and I think it'll fit really well here, so that's great. You're lifting a little piece of material and you're sticking it in there. And then some of it is more like, well, I want to run arpeggios, or I want to work on this lick, or the way these arpeggios connect, or whatever, and you can throw that in there. So it kind of gives you a chance to experiment safely, where you're not on the hook for a solo in front of a crowd or your friends or whatever. So I think that's extremely helpful. Reading is taking a solo that has already been transcribed, which in this case is by somebody else, and just working on reading it. So not reading tablature, but reading standard notation, which is something I'm doing more and more as I get into jazz, just because there's more of it that's not in tab. Everything's written for all these other instruments, or just in general in music notation, which I've long known how to read, but haven't spent a ton of time really working on learning tunes that way. Most of the time when I'm learning a tune, it's either totally by ear or with a tab. So learning solos, not just melody lines, but like longer solos from sheet music. There's a great site called Scribed, and you do have to pay a small monthly fee, but it's cool because it's a mixture of, like, you search for any Hal Leonard book and it's just there, because they have like publishing deals, I guess, with folks. So you can go and you can read those books. You can't download them, but you can you can read them as much as you want. So without having to buy the book, you can check out a book and see if you think it might be worth buying. And then one additional cool thing about it is that it lets people can upload their own stuff. So you go there and you just type in, the name of the song and the soloist, and chances are somebody has transcribed this before and has uploaded it, and you can and those you can download. The user uploaded ones you can actually download and print, and now it's yours forever. So that's cool. So I found one of the Hank Mobley solo from Someday My Prince Will Come, the Miles version. So I've been transcribing the Miles solo, I'm learning Hank's solo from sheet music, and I'm writing my own solo. And I've got one chorus of each of those. And so the idea is that I'm doing a lot of different things, and I'm learning a larger chunk of the tune while also kind of contributing my own piece to it, and working on my ear, working on my writing, working on my reading, working on, just learning vocab, stuff like that. So it's been so good. and most importantly, it's been fun. So I'm... even if I don't look forward to doing it, I sit down and I start running through a few notes of a tune, or I start transcribing, and then pretty soon an hour has gone by, and it's like, oh yeah, this is like what you always used to do and had fun with when you were learning guitar. Same thing here. So I'm really excited that I don't know why it took me so long, but I finally kind of got to the point where I understood what everybody meant by, the tunes are your teacher, go transcribe stuff, anyway. So drop 2 chords. I've been just working on putting together chord arrangements of the chords from the tune, and specifically trying to do them in kind of a voice leading way. So I'm not just connecting the chords, but I'm connecting them, upward movement and downward movement, stuff like that. I think there's, way better ways to do stuff with chords. Like if you ever listen to like Mike Moreno comp or Jonathan Kreisberg, it's unbelievable. Like I don't understand all the crazy stuff they're doing. It's not vanilla chords, it's not that kind of stuff. But that stuff sounds fine and it works well enough. And for me, it's a milestone of sorts. So that's good. 3 and 2 out, I talked about working on vocab, and then arpeggios. I also talked about which was doing like the connecting game that guy said in that book, whatever that book was. So going, okay, doing eighth notes, so three beats worth. Whatever, that wasn't great, but I was going too fast. But taking it really slow, not in time to a metronome or anything, but just going, okay, I'm playing a B flat arpeggio. Where's the nearest place I can go for the next arpeggio? And in fact, part of that exercise ended up in the solo that I wrote. So it's cool. It's not just, I don't know, so much of this feels like you're banging your head against the wall or trying to crash through a wall and you're chipping away at it bit by bit. But what you don't realize, this is a terrible metaphor, but anyway, what you don't realize is it's like actually there are two of you, or like you're chipping away. Do you remember Spirograph? Here's maybe a better one. Maybe not. There was this thing when I was growing up called Spirograph, and it was like these little plastic shapes, and you could put a pencil and another pencil and kind of go around, or you could like it would kind of link together. Anyway, it would create these neat little designs on a piece of paper by just kind of like moving your pen around, and the shape would dictate where your pen would go. So it was cool because you felt like you were just doing this one movement, but because of the shape of the thing and like how it kind of offset where you were going every time, you were actually creating this really neat larger piece. And that's kind of what it feels like to me with this stuff, is like I'm really focusing on arpeggios. That's what's going on in my mind. But then later when I'm working on writing my own solo, I can picture this stuff better because I've worked on it, but also I've got little bits and pieces of stuff that I heard when I was practicing the arpeggios that are now musical enough ideas to throw into a solo. That's it. That's the full circle connection that you're trying to make. And also I just wholesale lift a piece of Hank Mobley's solo and put it in my own. And I thought that was fine. Sounds cool. It's a neat lick. And it worked when it worked. That's kind of what I want to do more of. Yeah, so anyway, we're only halfway through the month, and I got a couple weeks left and then some. So I've been focusing mainly on just getting one complete chorus of each solo done. And I don't necessarily want to write a ton of stuff or learn all of a solo. So I don't know what I'll do. I might cap it at like 2. Like maybe I'll transcribe another chorus of Miles, learn the other half of Hank's solo. That'll actually be the complete solo, and then write another one or something like that. But anyway, so the big takeaway for me so far is like I'm doing this work and I've identified these areas that I want to focus on, but I don't have to like hit them. I actually created a checklist and I was like, I want to transcribe 3 times in a week and work on reading 3 times in a week. And that has really proven to be sort of, it doesn't fit with what is actually valuable at any given moment. So like when I finish transcribing a complete chorus of Miles, I don't need to necessarily keep transcribing. Like it's worthwhile to stop and take time to learn what I've transcribed and get that under my fingers, and not necessarily analyze it, but you could. But take the time to like lift ideas out of it or appreciate what he's doing and kind of understand it more deeply. And so I would consider that part of my transcribing, checkbox, even though I'm not actually transcribing. So it doesn't really jive with what I found. So what I'm thinking I might do in the next month is just do the same exercise where I pick a tune. The whole point is learning the tune, but identifying some areas that I want to focus on, and maybe mixing in and out some. So like transcribing, composing, reading might always be things because I'm trying to learn a new tune, and those are valuable to do. And then the drop 2 stuff is always useful because you're always having to comp and work out chord arrangements for stuff. But the other stuff like 3 and 2 out might be replaced with just like a specific lick. Like maybe I take the lick from the Hank Mobley tune, analyze it, take it out of context, and learn it in different keys or whatever. And the same thing with the arpeggio stuff. So I don't know. I'm kind of experimenting, but it's been good. I'm glad that I did that to kind of narrow down my focus, and now I kind of can see through just playing. I'm identifying the things that I need to work on. All right, so that's enough talking. So I think what I'm going to try to do now is play Someday My Prince Will Come, and I'm going to run through a chorus. The first time I solo is going to be Miles, the first chorus that Miles takes. I'm going to go right into the first chorus that Hank Mobley takes. I'm going to go right into the chorus that I wrote, and then I'm going to try to do another chorus purely improvised, and then I'll finish the tune off. So you'll see how quickly things break down when it gets to where it's like totally improv. And I may flub all the other stuff too, but we will see. So here we go. Forgot how it went for their second. Something like that. So yeah, it's got a long way to go still, because when I was taking my solo, my purely improvised solo, I totally blanked on the chords, even though I've been working on them, right? So maybe it's performance anxiety. But anyway, that's maybe a good illustration of also why this stuff is great, because when I lost my place or whatever, I could rely more on my ear to determine where I am, because I'm more familiar with the harmony of the tune. I kind of just more instinctively can pick back up where I left off. So I'm maybe my analytic mind is not able to keep up with, like, this is a G7, here's a B flat, but my ear is able to, and the goal is to work on the translating that to my fingers better and better. But anyway, I'm gonna keep working on that a couple more weeks at least. But yeah, anyway, it's cool stuff. So thanks for watching.